The internal crisis in the All Progressives Congress seems to have become worse, with different court cases directed towards the leadership of the party. The party's National Working Committee had affirmed former Oyo State Governor Abiola Ajimobi as the acting national chairman. But due to Mr. Ajimobi's unavoidable absence, the National Working Committee appointed the National Vice Chairman, South-South, Hilliard Etta, to act on his behalf. Also, the APC Deputy National Secretary, Mr. Victor Giadom, also declared himself as the acting national chairman on the strength of a Federal Capital Territory High Court order obtained on March 16, 2020. However, with the conflicting report about the sealing off of the party's national headquarters in Abuja by security operatives and subsequent prevention of the National Working Committee from meeting, the crisis could be said to have assumed a very critical dimension. For further analysis on the internal crisis within the APC, especially from a legal perspective, Oluwole Afolabi now joins us from our Rise Abuja studio. He's a lawyer, former technical advisor to the present Honorable Minister of State for Labor and Productivity in the brainstorming sessions that yielded a precursor to the complete overhaul and replacement of Nigeria's labor laws. Afolabi has also successfully defended the Federal Republic of Nigeria in various legal matters in the United States, including a $98 million breach of contract case before the Federal District Court in New York. Oluwole Afolabi, thank you for joining us on The Morning Show. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Well, let's establish certain things so that viewers can, put the conversation in proper perspective. You are the lawyer to Victor Giadom, who has been more or less rejected by the party, also replaced in his constituency as an officer in the Temple of Justice. Are you really giving him the right advice? Do you think he has the bona fide rights to even call a meeting of the party as he's proposing?
Absolutely. We have been giving him very sound, well-informed, and legally solid advice.
Yeah, but what is that based on? Do you think that a man who is said by the party not to be a member of the National Working Committee and who has also been rejected in his own constituency back home in Rivers State, do you think that he can make the claims that he is making, putting himself up as the legitimate chairman of the party? And considering the fact that all of this is based on an ex parte motion, and then, of course, there is another judgment that another perpetual injunction saying that what he's doing is not right. Would you like to address all of these issues?
Absolutely, I will. Yes, by virtue of APC Constitution, the Constitution prescribes for hierarchy of leadership. And in case of vacuum or in the absence of an officer, the Constitution prescribes who the next in line is, who takes over. That was the scenario that the party was presented with after the suspension of the then national chairman of the party, Mr. Adams Oshiomhole. At the time of the suspension, there were vacancies between the positions of the national chairman and the position of the assistant national chairman, which Chief Victor Giadom occupied at the time. There were no occupants. So by operation of law, by virtue of the Constitution, which all the members subscribed to, he was the next in line, and he succeeded to that position as the acting national chairman. And he did not stop at that. He went to court for an interpretation of the constitutional provision. And the court, in fact, interpreted it to mean that he was the next in line and that he should continue to act as the national chairman of the party. And he has been so doing.
But the NWC of APC will cite the same APC constitution, Section 14, subsection 2, clause 3, which I have here, and I'm going to read it. Deputy National Chairman, North/South, shall act as the national chairman in the absence of the national chairman from his zone. This is the rationale for Abiola Ajimobi being placed in the capacity of acting chairman. He's indisposed at the moment, and he's been, his stand-in is Hilliard Etta. Where does Mr. Giadom come into play here? Because this is quite clear.
Thank you. I would refer you back, if you have a copy of the Constitution, to take a look at Article 20 of the same Constitution. And if you want me to, I can read what it says. Or if you want to read it,
please do, for the benefit of our viewers.
Absolutely. Article 20 of the APC Constitution says, unless otherwise provided for, all party posts prescribed or implied by this Constitution shall be filled by democratically conducted elections at the respective National Convention or Congress. So party offices are to be filled at the National Convention. So the question is, when was the last time that APC had a convention? The last time the APC had a convention was in 2018. So how could Senator Chief Abiola Ajimobi, how could he have been appointed in 2020 when the last convention was held in 2018? So he was not, I mean, the provisions of the Constitution, the APC Constitution, the provisions are very clear. And the operative word is shall, which means it is mandatory. That is what you have to comply with. Yes, so that is what it says. It's subject to. So Senator Chief Abiola Ajimobi, his appointment was personal to the then national chairman of the APC, Comrade Adams Oshiomhole. He was an appointee of Comrade Oshiomhole. He was not elected in line with the clear provisions of the Constitution. I mean, I just read it out. Very, very clear. There was no convention. So if there was no convention, how could you have been elected when the Constitution prescribes very clearly, in a very lucid manner, how it should be done? So it was done contrary to the provisions of the Constitution, and as such, it was void ab initio right from the jump, right from the very beginning. It was ineffective, and it has no legal basis. So, consequent upon these particular provisions, which overrides the provisions that you mentioned, I mean, the provision of the Constitution that you mentioned would come into play. And in fact, it did, only that Chief Ajimobi was not the beneficiary, but Chief Victor Giadom was. Chief Abiola Ajimobi could have been if he had been elected in 2018. I mean, if Otuba Niyi Adebayo, if he had not been appointed a minister and he occupied that position, I mean, there will be no controversies right now. He probably would have been very much in. But since he resigned the position, that means the position has been vacant, and you have to go down the next in line. The national secretary was Alhaji Malam Boni. He resigned his position to contest the governorship in Yobe State, and he was successful. So that made the position of the national secretary vacant as well.
But Hilliard Etta was elected, wasn't he?
Hilliard Etta is, in terms of hierarchy, he comes after the acting national chairman. He comes after Chief Victor Giadom. He's not before.
But he was elected. So
yeah, I mean, we're not contesting that. But what we are saying is that he's not... Sure.
So he has legitimacy to that seat because he was elected. Going back to what you stated invariably, that the fact that you have to be elected, that's the constitution of the APC, but Hilliard Etta was elected. So what's Victor Giadom's grounds with this?
Yes, there's an hierarchy.
Okay.
If you look at the APC constitution, the national chairman comes first. After the national chairman, comes the deputy national chairman of the zone that the chairman is from, which in this instance would have been the deputy national chairman, South. There was a vacancy. Right next to that is deputy national chairman, North. There's also a vacancy. Right after that is the national secretary. There's a vacancy. Immediately after that is the assistant national secretary. And the person who was in that position at the very moment that the national chairman was suspended was Chief Victor Giadom. So he got elevated. So the individual that you mentioned comes after him. It's only if there have been further vacancies that it could have been elevated up. But in as much as the vacancy stopped at the level of the Assistant National Secretary, that is it. He assumes that position. That's what the Constitution says.
Well, Wole, I'd like you to address two quick issues. The National Working Committee of the party insisted that at the point that you were referring to in favor of Giadom, that Giadom subsequently resigned his position as Deputy National Secretary when he went to run for election as a deputy governor in Rivers State. And it was on the basis of that that the Rivers State APC has since, chosen Bombs as the Deputy National Secretary of the party. And therefore, the NWC of the APC insists that in their own reckoning, Giadom cannot lay claim to any position. Now, then there is also a ruling from a high court in Rivers State, in Port Harcourt, saying that Giadom has been restricted from parading himself or taking any action as a chairman of the party as he claims. You have not appealed that ruling. So what really is the basis for Victor Giadom's insistence that he's the legitimate chairman of the party?
Thank you for your two-in-one questions. The first off, the assertion that Chief Victor Giadom resigned his position to run for office as Deputy Governor of Rivers State is false. It's a false narrative that's been put out there. He never resigned his position. And the members who are saying this, they know better. He was granted a waiver. There was no resignation. I mean, the Deputy National Chairman, Northeast, he released a copious statement a few days ago, and even documents to that effect, that he never resigned his position. And there's been precedent for it. This is not the first time that it has been done. He did not do anything that had not been done before. The chairman granted him waiver, and when the elections were over, he came right back and he assumed his position. He was the acting national secretary, reporting and working directly with the now suspended national chairman before the national chairman was removed. Do you think if he had been suspended or if he had been removed, do you think the national chairman would have been working with him? They were working together until the suspension came. So when was it? The elections in Rivers State were held when? Not this year, So he has been running that position ever since the elections were over. He has been performing the duties of the office. That is the first one. The second leg of your question, see, the Supreme Court has made it very, very clear that when a party, a litigant, submits before it a particular claim, before that claim is decided, no other court can make a pronouncement that can essentially force the hands or tie the hands of the court before which that particular claim has been subjected. Now, before the purported order that was handed down by the court in Rivers State, there was a pending matter here before the FCT High Court, wherein Chief Victor Giadom was asserting his claim to that particular office. Now, part of being the plank for his claim, obviously, was that he was the acting national chairman and is a member of the National Working Committee. That's a claim that's before the court. Now, can another court now decide that issue, especially a court of coordinate jurisdiction? This court is not of higher jurisdiction than the FCT High Court. They are courts of coordinate jurisdiction. The later court cannot sit in appeal over the decision of a court of coordinate jurisdiction that was handed down earlier. And the position of the law is clear. The earlier in time prevails. The decision as regards Chief Victor Giadom's occupancy of the seat came earlier in time. And steps are actually being taken to get the court to do the right thing in Rivers State. So what the court did was obviously wrong. I'm sure not enough materials were placed before the court. The court obviously was misled in granting that order. But our order came first ahead of the second one.
Mm-hmm. I understand that, yeah. Tundu?
Back to the APC constitution, where I hate to be pedantic, but we have to really adhere to it quite strictly. We here, if the party members choose not to. You were talking about the hierarchy. A deputy national chairman can never supersede a deputy national chairman in the hierarchy of a party. Yes. Rufai. So that's my first. Can you expand on that? Let's discuss that first. And secondly, in keeping with the Constitution, Chief Giadom, your client, called a NEC meeting, citing Article 25. But Article 25 lays down a strict procedure, including notice for such a meeting, which his own notice has flouted. He called this meeting yesterday. The meeting is supposedly holding, well, yesterday being Tuesday. The meeting is supposedly holding on Thursday. The APC Constitution gives a 7-day window.
I'm sorry, what was the first question again, please?
I was talking about hierarchy as a first question. According to the APC Constitution and any political party anywhere in the world, a deputy national secretary can never supersede a deputy national chairman.
Sounds like common sense to me.
Yes, secretary chairman.
Yes, yeah, there's no dispute as to that. What we are saying is that there are vacancies. We never said it, no. All we're saying is that there are vacancies in the offices that you mentioned. No one is occupying those positions right now.
At a point in time?
Saying. No one is contending to the contrary. Yes, the conventions were not held. The convention has not been held since 2018. And I've explained earlier how these positions came to be vacant. There was the deputy national chairman, the two of them, they were not in office as of March 4th. The national secretary resigned to contest the election successfully, and he was the next in line. So that's the answer to that. No one is contending to the contrary.
Oh, good.
No.
And the second point about adherence or otherwise to the Constitution, because it does appear that that's a problem within the APC. The Constitution does not appear to be worth more than the paper it's printed on. There is a procedure, according to Article 25, about how to call a NEC meeting. If at all Chief Giadom is arguing that he has the capacity to do so, you have to have a 7-day period. And he just decided on Tuesday to call a meeting for Thursday.
Right. The particular article that you are referring to, that would be Article 25B. B1 says, the National Executive Committee shall meet every quarter or at any time decided by the national chairman. Or at any time decided by the national chairman. So the person who is acting in that capacity right now decided that in the interest of the party, considering what is going on now, I, as the chairman, based on the powers conferred on me by the Constitution, which I just read out.
No, you need to keep reading.
And that's exactly what
you should keep reading. Without prejudice to Article 25B, Clause 1 of this Constitution, read that. At least 7 days' notice of the meeting shall be given to all those entitled to attend.
Nobody says the National Working Committee may summon. He is not summoning it as he's not the national. This is not something that was. If you read the entire thing, it says, without prejudice to Article 25B1 of this Constitution, the National Working Committee may summon an emergency National Executive Committee meeting at any time, provided that at least 7 days notice of the meeting. Now, that's the national. Now, let's get something straight here, please, respectfully. This pertains to the National Working Committee. You see, there's in terms of interpreting statutes, there's what is called the express the express to unions rule, that the express mention of something is the exclusion of another. Now, when the Constitution was, when it was speaking as regards the chairman, there were no such limitations placed on the chairman's power. But as regards the National Working Committee, this is a proviso. So we have to make sure that we separate the two. This is not a neck called by the National Working Committee. No. This is a neck called by the chairman.
Well, the self-acclaimed chairman.
I hope I've made myself clear. So what you read, it's not self-acclaimed. What else are we supposed to say or do? I mean, we have cited and relate to you the relevant portions of the Constitution, and we've told you that we have an order of the court. So what is self-appointing in this? There's no self-appointment. This is like you breathe life into Constitution. The Constitution comes alive by operation. I mean, what happened was breathing of life into the Constitution. And when that happened, Chief Victor Giadom rightfully stepped in and is, at the moment, managing the affairs of the APC. I mean, you agree with me that an association that has millions of people as members cannot be allowed to operate without a leader.
I definitely agree with that.
It's important for him to be in place. Yes, he's not a self-appointed person, no.
What would your reaction be to the words of people like Daniel Bwala that says he's just a meddlesome interloper? He's just here to scatter everything.
The word of who?
Daniel Bwala.
Who said that, please?
Yeah, Daniel Bwala is a member of the APC.
Well,
it says Victor Giadom is a meddlesome interloper.
Yes. You see, there's nothing will be gained by engaging in verbal abuse or insults. It's a question of, and hey, it's a free country, there's freedom of expression. He's free to say whatever he wants. But what is important is Chief Victor Giadom is the acting national chairman based on what the Constitution provides and what the courts have pronounced upon. So he is no meddlesome interloper. He is a rightful occupant of that position, so as it were.
Why has it been difficult for you to effect this? Why has it been difficult for you because it looks as though people on the National Working Committee are on the part of Hillary Etta on this. He's got about 15 members that are with him, and 2 people joined or 3 people joined virtually. Why can't he get people under the National Working Committee to be on his side? Why is he factionalizing?
Well,
just like what will happen in Edo State.
Let me quickly say something here. You said that Chief Etta, based on what I read, was appointed based on the instructions, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, of Chief Senator Ajimobi. Now, let me ask you this. Assuming, without conceding, that Senator Chief Ajimobi is the one who ought to be the acting national chairman, and for whatever reason is unavoidably absent, is there any provision in the Constitution that gives him the power to appoint someone to act on his behalf, in his stead? The answer, I dare say, is no. One man cannot say, because I'm unavoidably absent.
No, but there was a provision that empowered Hillary Etta to act. There was a provision that empowered Hillary Etta to act, still based on the APC Constitution.
Deputy National Chairman from the same zone. So when one person could not assume the position that the next one did.
Oluwole Afolabi, just before we go, do you see your client winning the game at the end of the day? Are you really confident? Yes or no?
Do I see him leaving? No, do I see him leaving? Or what was
winning this game.
Do I see
Giadom winning at the end
Chief
of the
Victor
day?
Giadom?
Yes.
Winning what?
No, there's a game out there.
Well,
He's
we've run out
fighting
of
for
time.
something, but anyway, don't worry.
Thank you.